Supply chains, the illusion of control, bursting the bubbles of love, politics, and the manufacturing renaissance. We want to believe it is real. Robert R. Odell, March 26, 2026. 1. Introduction. The narratives we inhabit. I'm nearly 80 years on this planet, and if I've learned one thing as an old dude who spent his life in copper smelters and cobalt circuits, it's that we're world-class at lying to ourselves. We live in these bubbles of narrative comfort. Stories we tell ourselves because the truth is too damn heavy to carry. You see it first in new relationships. You meet someone, and for a few months you're madly in love with an invented person. You aren't seeing the human being. You're seeing a character you wrote in your own head. Eventually, that bubble bursts, and you wake up in bed with a stranger you never bothered to truly listen to. Thanks for reading Ancient Texan. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work. Right now, America is waking up in that same bed. Our politics and industrial policies are floating in those same bubbles, completely divorced from physical and thermodynamic reality. We've convinced ourselves we can run the world with software, taxes, and branding, while the foundation, the physical world of energy and materials, is cracking right under our boots. 2. The political bubble. Democracy under the shadow of wealth. The American democratic myth is a story we tell children so they'll feel good about pulling a lever. But since Citizens United, that reality has been bought and paid for by a rich elite. We've built a system where power has smashed compassion. Whether it's the smelly orange con man or the Democrats who are too afraid to stand for anything real, the result is the same. The wealthy select who runs, and the voters just judge how well the rich targeted their PAC money to get the laws and tax breaks they wanted. Uncomfortable truths of our political reality. Money has replaced justice. From the Epstein tragedy to corporate malfeasance, we defer to the powerful. Justice isn't blind, it just has a high entry fee. The buffoon's chaos. We have a leader who functions on show, provocation, and hate. His ice thugs and 10% devalued dollar aren't a plan. They're a slow-motion collapse of the world order. The filtered ballot. The most important decisions on how this country is run are settled in wood-paneled rooms long before you ever reach the ballot box. A divided reality. We no longer share a myth or a banner. We've personalized our morality to the point where we're just tribes of strangers shouting at computer screens. 3. The manufacturing renaissance mirage. Politicians on both sides love to hoot and holler about a manufacturing renaissance. They promise to bring the factories back, but they're selling you a mirage. They're branding a house while the ground beneath it is a sinkhole. You can't have a renaissance when you've lost the supply chains that start in Mother Earth. We've spent 40 years convinced that digging holes was immoral, while paying China to do it for us under the cover of darkness. Branding versus physical reality. Political promise, the branding, versus industrial requirement, the reality. Buy American mandates and retail subsidies, permitting timelines that take 10 to 15 years from discovery to production. Reshoring factories and high-tech jobs. China's dominance of 90% of REE refining and, more importantly, the magnets. Tariffs to protect the domestic industry. $1.7 trillion mining investment gap needed just to keep the lights on. Green energy transition via legislation. A 42x growth in lithium demand and 21x in cobalt by 2040. 4. The physical backbone. Mine to manufacturing integration. If you want real renewal, you need a linked chain. As a metallurgist, I know wealth flows from the earth, not from a spreadsheet. If you don't have the mine or the refinery, that factory at the end of the line is just an empty shell. Every step has to close a material and energy balance, or the story breaks. The 3 pillars of a real system. Mining capacity. We need to stop the NIMBY nonsense. Real capacity requires matching demand with permitting that works on decadal timelines, not 4-year election cycles. Refined feedstocks. If the feedstock isn't chemically and physically suitable, if we don't own the midstream processing, we're just China's customer. Design for constraints. We have to build with the end in mind. That means urban mining, recycling, and designing products that can swap materials when we hit a cost wall. 5. Designing AI with a mine in mind. The techno kings want you to think AI is a weightless cloud. That's a lie. AI is a mineral-dense power plant for computation. Every time you send a prompt, you're traversing a chain of excavators and smelters. We're facing a Jevons paradox. The more efficient we make AI, the more people use it, and the more energy and metal it sucks from the common man's grid. The shadow world of mines required for an AI data center. The compute core. Beyond the silicon, we're talking high-purity quartz from spruce pine NC, a choke point the Chinese know we control. Add in gallium, germanium, and gold for the traces. The physical shell. trillions of pounds of iron ore for steel, bauxite for the aluminum racks, and massive limestone quarries for the concrete foundations. Power and cooling. Half the material mass is in the infrastructure. Copper for the grid, and the high-pressure acid leach HPAL systems for the nickel and cobalt in the backup battery banks. 6. Megadeaths. When the bill comes due, the buffalo are gone, folks. The easy resources we used to build this country are depleted, and several forces are moving the world into an era of scarcity. National debt. We're pushing $40 trillion, and interest charges now exceed the military budget. We're printing money to pay interest on loans we can't afford, which will destroy our children's future through inflation. Resource depletion. The financial world is collapsing back into the physical world. We discarded our minds, and now China controls the refineries and the manufacturing hubs we need to survive. Military-industrial obsolescence. We spend trillions on carriers and jets that are ineffective against $500 autonomous drones. If we can't bully the world with hardware, the buffoon will be tempted to use nuclear weapons as a last hold on being superior. The death of the petrodollar, our 50-year deal with Saudi Arabia, ended in January 2026. The world no longer has to buy our dollars to get oil. The premium is gone, and we're the last to know. 7. Human consequences. Watching the links break. Supply chains aren't just lines on a map. They're the backbone of people's lives. I worked the cobalt circuit at Amax Nickel in Louisiana, the same cobalt we now get from children digging in collapsing tunnels in the Congo. When Amax went dark, it wasn't a quote, structural adjustment. It was my buddy in the control room, with a wife expecting a baby, being told his job was gone because the link broke. We're unraveling. If you're in the bottom quartile of Americans, you'd be better off in Mexico or Costa Rica. At least there, your income is growing, and you'll live long enough to see your grandkids. Here, affordability anxiety is killing us, and we've lost the shared myths, the Babe Ruths and Mickey Mantles that used to hold us together. 8. A path toward realism, the 10-year plan. We can dig ourselves out of this hole, but only if we get some adults in the room who care about their children more than their PAC donors. The Ancient Texan Adult Solutions Checklist. Streamline permitting. Move critical ventures to 1 to 2 year timelines. We don't have a decade to wait for antimony urban, and replace it with a Bureau of Mines to refocus our curriculum on the physical world. Social Security realism. Gradually push retirement age to 70 for those born after 1970 and lift the tax cap on the rich. Strategic price floors. Offer a 30% bonus on metal over market for 10 years to de-risk domestic mining from Chinese price manipulation. Military right-sizing. Close redundant overseas bases and focus on autonomous drones and domestic supply chain independence. 9. Conclusion. Choosing reality over the myth. We are living through a slow-motion collapse of the invented lover, the filtered democracy, and the factory without a mind. We can no longer live by code and taxes alone. The buffalo of cheap, plentiful resources are gone, and we're left with a choice between Malthusian fear and a sustainable development equilibrium based on physical stewardship. We have to start looking at the individual again, smelling their breath and listening to their words, instead of hiding behind identity politics and techno-king clones. Reality is presenting the final bill. We'd best be ready to pay it. Namaste. The Ancient Texan. Thanks for reading Ancient Texan. Subscribe for free to receive new posts and support my work.